Everybody, it's Karen from Divorce Workshop, having another Divorce Workshop Talks. Today we're inviting Romina Camran in. She's going to talk about lives. You just never know. Hello.
How are you?
Good. I was just saying, it's the funny thing about lives. You just never know, right? What's good.
I was hitting request to join and it just froze. So sorry about
Yeah, that's okay. That's sometimes the internet, right? So it's not your fault.
all blame
Yeah.
technology. Yeah.
So it's great to have you on. I
Thank
was just saying how we're going to talk today about how and when a solicitor fits. But first, could you give us a quick little bio about yourself so everyone can get to know
you.
you?
Sure, of course. So my name is Romina Cameron and I've been mediating for about 8 years now. I'm an accredited mediator here in the UK. And as part of that, I also train other mediators. So we call that a PPC, a personal practice consultant.
Mm-hmm.
And I support those mediators to also get fully accredited. So I have that as part of what I do, as well as mediating within my private practice, which is where you and I have connected through ARC mediation. And I'm very fortunate that I also work through charity-based mediation services. So we're then able to provide mediation to clients that would otherwise not have the financial means to access mediation.
Which is also really, we could have another talk about that because that's really important to have, right? To have that service. I don't know if we have that over in Canada here. Someone may, if they can let me know, but it's really important work that you do.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely fulfilling. I know that's going to sound a bit sort of cheesy, but it is because we get to help all clients, those that obviously are able to spend, money to kind of resolve their issues, and clients that really come to us that just don't know where to start. They don't have the financial means.
Mm-hmm.
They've not had legal advice. They just don't know how they're going to get through the most challenging time, in their lives. So it's nice to be able to support that.
Yeah, maybe we can do another live about that.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, it's very relevant, especially here at the moment in the UK. Things are really tough for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes very important that mediators are doing that, as well as having their private practice, but are dipping into those services that are offering that
Mm-hmm.
to clients.
Which I would say having that service would also probably help ease the children, like society, and like, you know what I mean? Like everything is if you feel you have some support, or some knowledge about where you're going,
Yeah,
so it's secular. I mean, it what I mean is that it involves a lot of things if you can help them from the start, right?
absolutely. And I think, we've got to remember that this is the most often one of the most challenging times that people are going through. So they're feeling very vulnerable. So without knowledge, that can make you feel extremely disadvantaged. So with mediation, you're able to, the nice thing about mediation, why I'm so passionate about it, is we don't just talk about mediation as being the only process. We talk about the alternatives to clients, because we know that it might not always be suitable that they go down the path of mediation. And there are examples where actually it's not suitable, and we talk about the other processes. So they kind of leave that meeting with a lot more information. You know, next steps. We're not allowed to give advice as mediators, but we provide a lot of info for them to take away, digest it, and feel like they can look at their options.
Yeah, speaking of that, so when I'm 7 years post, and I didn't know any options, right? Like I did what everybody did, and I just went, well, I need a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I think for certain cases, as in our workbook we have, as you know, we have who are you divorcing? That really matters when it comes to whether you can mediate or whether it is a challenging personality that you may need more help with a lawyer. But what are your thoughts about this? Because to me, I think it's changing. I think mediation has been coming over here too, especially in the States and Canada. There is more talk about mediation. When I was 7 years ago, and I was talking to, I did another live with one of my other colleagues, and for both of us, we just did what society was telling us to do back then, and that's just go to the lawyer. And you know, now it seems that the last 5, 6, 7 years or so, or it doesn't seem as that's always what we do anymore. Mediation is becoming more of the buzzword. I don't know if that's over there as well, but
yeah, I mean, so a few points there that I'll pick up on, but I guess the point that's most relevant is mediation here, especially in the UK, is going through probably one of the most sort of interesting times, because we're at a point where the court system is completely overwhelmed. And so fortunately, the government took action and said, look, before you're in this court system going through this, we need you to at least have a conversation with a mediator. So before anyone can apply to court, they have to have a MIAM. We call it a MIAM here. So mediation, information and assessment meeting, lots of words, don't know why, but it's basically your initial chat with a mediator that can kind of tell your options. And I think that's been hugely beneficial, because there are still the clients that will say, oh, well, I'm just doing this because I have to go to court. And by the end of the conversation, they're thinking about the fact that there are other processes that could benefit them more than going through certainly an adversarial, because no one, from my experience, comes out of court enjoying the process. I mean, the best thing about court is you get an outcome, right? No matter what, there is an end. And that's what I say to clients. That's a great thing about court. But the actual going through it is often very challenging, very painful. And it's certainly in most cases not the best place, for children arrangements. It simply isn't. So we were finding here in the UK far too many cases in the court system that don't belong in court. They don't belong with solicitors, and they belong with mediators trying to work it through, co-parent, team up. How do you want to look after these children together? So that's kind of where the UK is with mediation. Most people know about it, which is great. But I think coming back to what you said about lawyering up, and I said it before, people feel vulnerable, they're scared, they don't know what to expect. They never thought they'd be in this position. No one sets out having children or getting married that they're going to go through this, right? We just don't do it. We know it's out there and we know the statistics. We just don't think we'll ever become one of those statistics.
Exactly.
So I think it's natural that they feel that, right, I'm going to get a solicitor, I'm going to get a lawyer. And I understand that. But I think what we're seeing now is a pause. People know to just take a minute and think, okay, there are options. Let me find out about the options. And I think that's what's great, because if you was to have an initial meeting with ARC mediation, we would be saying to you, okay, where are you at right now? If you had any advice, do you have a solicitor? Are you thinking of a solicitor? Are you aware of not just mediation and what mediation can do, but do you know there's arbitration, you know, there's collaborative law, there's lots of other avenues you can take rather than just getting a solicitor. But I think it's also important that we stress that there is a place for solicitors, there's a place for lawyers in the process, right? Of course you have the clients that they don't want them. They know exactly what they want. They want you to just write it up. They're amicable. Great. Tick all the boxes, done. But generally, there is always a place for solicitors. And I think it's important that we work closely with them. So I certainly myself, you know, I have great solicitors that I partner up with, but they are resolution based, which I think is important.
Yeah,
so,
it's a good word.
Right? They want a resolution. They want their clients to work this out outside of the court system so they can move on to the next case. And it's not about clocking up minutes and billing on minutes. So there are solicitors out there that really do believe mediation works and also there to support clients when it doesn't work. Because it's not a silver bullet. It's not necessarily going to be for everyone.
No, but it is. It also, we want to mention too that mediation, even if you need lawyers as well, is a lot cheaper than cheaper than going to litigation right away. The thing about litigation is, I know in my own experience with other clients, it's just combative at the beginning, right? Like you're adversarial, even if you may not be adversarial, really, you can get into that adversarial, right? And I think there's some psychological stuff there too, right? When you're sitting across from each other and you're, you know, and it's more where I think mediation is a forward moving type of thing.
Yeah. And I think we've got to remember that the mediator is there for both parties. And that's very different to having your individual solicitor, because your individual lawyer is there for you. They are there to stress your position and to ultimately get you what you want. And that's different. Whereas as mediation, we are there for both parties and we're saying, okay, we know you want X and we know that you want A, right? But we need to find a middle ground and see if this can work. We don't do the work, the clients do the work. We're just steering them. And I think it's quite an empowering process. And, you know, picking up what you said about it being cheaper, yes, of course, it is considerably cheaper. But, you know, I often say to clients, because you do get clients that come to mediation and, you know, they're there just because it's cheaper, but they want to be just as difficult as if they're. So they'll have gone to get legal advice and they'll just keep regurgitating the same legal advice. And I think I actually did a post on Instagram recently, and it was off the back of a few clients that I'd had like that. And I said to them, this is not, you know, this is not court, and this is not you're with your solicitor just here going over the same points. Mediation is a process where you come with a different mindset. So if you're going to come with this mindset of just sticking to your position, you're not in the right process. So it doesn't matter if it is cheaper, you'll end up spending more money because you'll go through mediation, it won't work. You'll go to solicitors, it won't work. And you'll go to court and someone will tell you how it's going to work.
Well, that goes back to that thing we have in the workbook, that quiz, right? Where it's who are you divorcing? Because, you know, if their personality is really difficult in the marriage, for some, not all, it could be difficult divorcing, right? So, you know, if you can know that, you know, that mediation may be okay at the beginning, but if this person, as you said, these patterns keep coming up, then you know, seeking out a lawyer, and some have to actually go to court, right? That's
absolutely, you're spot on. And, you know, that's why I said to you, I loved your book so much. And I feel like everyone should have a copy because you don't realize until you're in it how you're going to react, but also how the other party is going to react. And there are circumstances where it's just not suitable for your mental health, not suitable for the circumstances it puts you in to be in mediation. You know, you need that extra support either from a solicitor or going through the court system where you're a bit detached from it in a way, because ultimately there is someone else that's going to tell you both how it all ends. And so I think there absolutely is a place for those clients and they belong in the court system. But as you
Mhm.
know, and as we've
Mhm.
discussed, there are far too many that don't,
Yeah,
and
because
are in
sorry to
there.
interrupt. Isn't
Yeah.
that kind of like 10%? I don't know, statistic wise, I mean, research, it's like 10% are amicable.
Mm,
Like as you said, those are really easy. 80% are moderate
yeah.
conflict, right? Because you're
Yeah.
getting a divorce for a
Yeah.
reason, right?
Yeah.
And then that 10%, I'm not saying these numbers are exact science. I'm just saying that's the general roundabout I hear. So there is, as you know, as a trained mediator, you are going to have conflict, right? It's just how you can handle that in mediation. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, very rare do I get, and I mean, I do get lovely
Mm-hmm.
clients that are in a great place and they're smiling away and they're laughing about it all. They are incredibly rare.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I love my job on those days because my job's super easy. They're
Mm-hmm.
doing it all for me. But most of the time, it is exactly that. It's that moderate conflict. It's frustrating. It's challenging. They feel a roller coaster of
Mm-hmm.
emotions. We often talk about the loss cycle in mediation as well, because you're both at different points
Mm-hmm.
in the separation. So you might both want the divorce, but you might be processing how you feel about the divorce at
Yep.
different times,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
and that brings about its own challenges because one of you is grieving the loss of this relationship, the other one's forward planning.
Yep.
Like, okay, I've done my grieving, I'm ready to talk about who gets what, and I want to buy this place. And so we have to kind of say to them, slow down. We need to kind of work at the pace of the person who's coming to
Mm-hmm. Yep.
terms with what this all means, because ultimately my goal for my clients is to get them to an agreement. That's all I've got at the back of my mind is, I would like you
Mm-hmm.
guys to agree and that the proposals are right for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So and the only way you're going to do that is if they're both in a similar place when they're deciding what they want to do. So and the high conflict, yes, there are clients at times where I think, if this carries on, I don't think this is the right process for you. And I listened to your live the other day, and you were talking about narcissists, right?
Mm-hmm.
And often, I have clients where I think I have to also deem if mediation is suitable for them,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm always really hopeful because I really believe in the process
Mm-hmm.
and I always want to help. But there have been times where a couple of sessions in, and I think actually this person should not be in this process because of certain behaviors that just get repeated, and the sort of the harm that they inflict on all those around.
Mm-hmm.
So we're constantly managing that as well. It brings about its challenges for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking also, like, there's also, I don't know if you have that in England, but they also here in North America, they'll have where you have your mediator and then you each have a lawyer just
Mm,
to consult with.
mm,
So
yeah,
they're trying to move things forward in mediation, but sometimes they have lawyers as well on the
mm,
side just to make sure that now I would suspect it's for probably high-end clients that
yeah.
can afford
So
that type of,
yeah, so Karen, I think we call that hybrid mediation here.
okay.
So, and I'm not going to give my personal
Mm-hmm.
opinion about it
Mm-hmm.
because being completely truthful, I've only experienced it twice. So it's not big, not a big thing here. And I think you're right. It's the high end sort
Mm-hmm.
of clients that, they have the
Mm-hmm.
funds to access
Mm-hmm.
both services. Most people don't,
No.
So my thoughts about it, I would say I'll put on the back burner because I don't feel like I can say what how great it is. The limited experience I've had, it often feels like too much is going on
Yeah.
for one thing. It doesn't feel like mediation and it doesn't feel like solicitors. And I guess I know they call it hybrid mediation, but it's kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm on the fence. I'm
It's
on the
just,
fence with that
yeah,
one.
I know we talked about that before. I just brought up because it does seem I have had a few clients that
Mm,
have done that, and I want your professional opinion and thought on that. But
mm,
yeah, it could probably get a bit overwhelming, and we know divorce is already overwhelming. So,
mm. And, and I guess from my perspective, and I have lots of lawyer friends, you know, we talk about mediation, and lots of lawyers here that also have trained now to become
Yes.
mediators.
Yeah.
Share lots of stories about how we think the industry is going, and we've talked recently about hybrid mediation, and I guess the bit that is, you know, that I find challenging myself is that mediation is quite a different process to solicitors. That's the whole point. It is this collaborative, you know, work of two people coming together and really thinking about it without solicitors in that moment. So, you know, and like I said before, there is a place for solicitors, but us sort of guiding when that time is. So that's kind of why I have reservations about it, but that's not to say it doesn't work and it's not right for certain people. It's just my sort of thinking around it now is it feels very different to mediation. It kind of feels as if we're trying to attach the two, and I'm not
Yeah, and
sure.
I think what I'm hearing today too, and what I've heard from others, is that it is a different process. And I
Yeah.
think that's important for people to understand, right? And I think with mediation, you have to be more prepared, right? You have to work at it. And I think with, you know, litigation, or it's not the same type of, you know, and I think a lot for women like when I went through it, I think I was fear-based, right? I was more in that fear position instead
Yeah.
of even thinking about the other way, whether we would have been able to end up through mediation at all because of my situation. I don't know, but it would have been nice to have even thought about that in the first place. So again, I go back to the fact that I'm glad mediation is becoming more mainstream, because the cost that I've heard over the last 3 years of doing this, it's been extraordinary. I've heard 500,000. I've heard 1 million. I've heard someone told me about someone in California, which is a lot of money, I know, but 8 million, like in legal fees. And for most people, we don't want divorce to break you financially, right? And
No.
emotionally and mentally. So,
Yeah.
um,
And I think that's such a valid point, because you know, we have clients that will come to us who've already spent money they can't afford to spend, you know, and got nowhere.
yeah.
And that's so disappointing for them. You know, I can't help but empathize and feel sorry for them, because I think there are the clients where it doesn't matter and they can afford to waste that kind of money, but the vast majority, it matters a lot. And we're talking the difference between them being able to rehouse themselves, and you know, and I think we also have to be careful. I recently had clients say to me, oh yes, I need a mediator, but my solicitor says I need to have hybrid mediation so they can also attend. So as mediators, we have to manage that too, which is, okay, what do you understand about hybrid mediation? What do you understand about mediation? And what do you understand about solicitors and having them on board, and why do you have them on board? So we need to be careful with that as well. It's that opportunist, you know, that moment where someone can come into the process. It doesn't actually need to be there costing money to clients. So that's something to think about as well when you're going through it.
Yeah, because just think of the cost alone, right? Like you're paying the mediator, you're also paying the lawyer. In Canada, you're paying the lawyer to get there as well. I'm not sure about there. So, you know, all
Yeah.
these bills add up. If you're meeting in person, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing is that it is considerably cheaper. We've said that mediation is cheaper. And, you know, and there are solicitors out there that they charge, there's a variety, right? I think the biggest thing that, I don't know about you, but what I hear from clients is almost a fear to ask how much it's going to be. They're in it, they're doing it. They don't really understand what they're doing. They don't know what the next steps are. Even ones that come to me and say, oh, I just need I need my initial meeting because I need my court form. But when you ask them, do you know what it is? What court form do you need? What is it you're doing? A lot of them don't know. They have no idea. They're just kind of going off instruction. They don't even know they can apply to court themselves. So here in the UK, you can go online and apply for a financial order yourself. You can go online and apply for children arrangements order yourself. You don't actually need to do it through solicitors, but it's getting that knowledge out there so clients are aware. Hang on, before you spend thousands, did you know that it would just cost you hundreds to do it yourself? And so that's disappointing, because I think there is just a lack of knowledge. It's getting better, but nowhere near where it should be.
I think that's why we both have a passion for it, right? Like when we met, it's this, you have passion for this and I have passion because I want people better informed, right? They don't need to make the same mistakes I made and many others before. With many things, not just financially, like co-parenting, right? Like, you know, I didn't even know what an interim parenting plan was. I'm like, you know, it wasn't until 3 or 4 years later, I'm like, oh, we needed that? I didn't know what that is. Like all these things that, you know, and I had a lawyer and I was very good. I didn't use them as therapists or anything, but still, like, there's a lot of things I didn't know how to get through. And I think that's why you and I have a real passion to try to help people and get the right information, so at least they can know what path or what they're going to choose and try to minimize their mistakes. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting you should say that, because I remember when I was reading law at university, there was a module about arbitration, alternative dispute resolutions. And I remember going up to my law professor at the end of a lecture and saying to him, this is brilliant. Why don't more people use mediation? Why are our courts such a mess? And him saying to me, you know what, don't worry about it. No one uses it. We've got to cover it. It's not big. You can't make a career out of it, so forget it. But I remember from that young sort of, you know, I'm much older now, but in my 20s, absolutely recognizing that this was a great way of doing it outside of the court system. And it kind of, that passion really for it has remained. You know, I do believe in what I do, otherwise I simply wouldn't do it. I'm one of those people that if I don't love something, I would lose interest and I'm gone. So I'm doing it because I believe there are too many people that are let down. And even once you go to court, you know, you mentioned co-parenting and children arrangement orders that we give out here. They're back in mediation many years later, realizing they've gone through hell. They've got this court order, you know, with these arrangements set out that are fixed, right, for that point in time. And the first thing I say to clients is, you know, your children are going to change. Your circumstances are going to change. So you cannot remain fixed. You know, there's got to be a degree of flexibility. Of course, there are situations where it's not suitable to have that, right? There are situations where it's got to be fixed and it's got to be a certain way because of, you know, extreme circumstances. But the vast majority that come back say, we realize we spent thousands, this court order doesn't work, we would like to tweak X, Y, and Z. And I think, gosh, you know, thousands of pounds, years of pain, communication zero, arrangements a mess later, and now you're coming into the process. But at least they're coming in now, which is great.
Is good. I mean, until I worked in this business as well, I didn't know that for courts, it's a cookie cutter, right? Like the judges don't have time to go over your cases and thoroughly. They're not interested really in dealing with all the family issues. I mean, you're the family that's needs to work it out and figure it out, right? So I was naive. I thought, okay, well, the judge will do this, the judge will do that. Well, no, the judges don't work that way, right? Like that's what mediation does. Mediation is back and forth, negotiate something that you both deem as fair-ish, right? Because to me, in divorce, nothing's ever going to be perfectly fair. That's not the way it is. I think we have a naive. We can also do another live about that, about, you know, the fairness, because I think we all have this, when you're going through it, you're like, oh, everything's going to be fair. well, not always going to be fair. You're going to have to learn to, negotiate what's important to you. What do you want? What do you don't want? You're the expert on that. I'm just saying, like, um, I mentally said fair is going to be it, and it's not. And going to court does not automatically mean that the judge is going to see
No,
my way,
no.
because that's not the way it works. So I think you telling them that, in your first sessions and stuff like that is imperative, right? That this is what you're going to get into if you go down
Mm,
this route. So
yeah.
it is heavy.
It's funny you should say that, because one of the first things I say is, look, family magistrate here, they're not going to wave a magic wand. So all the things that you really dislike about each other, which makes communication almost impossible, does not go away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the family magistrates, they are desperately trying to do a great job, but they're simply overwhelmed. They do not have time to read every single particular note you've made about the other party. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have the capacity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So all they can do is surmise and apply what they feel is fair. You mentioned the word fair. What they feel is fair may not be fair to you as the
Mm-hmm.
parents. And I also say, look, I'm a parent, right? I have children, and I couldn't think of anything worse than someone else telling me how
Mm-hmm.
I manage my children, or how I
Mm-hmm.
co-parent them, or what days they see me or spend time with. You're giving so much power to
Mm-hmm.
someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is about trying to steer people to understand it's not like the movies. So I think there are too many movies that glorify, glamorize. It's
Mm-hmm.
not. It's really not like that at all. Um, and it is a lengthy process, and it is someone else telling you how you spend time with your
Mm-hmm.
kids. And not much of the other stuff gets improved, right? So if you weren't
No,
speaking before, you're certainly not going to be speaking at the end of court. That's just
no,
my
generally not.
experience,
My
right?
parents went
You,
to court and years ago in the 70s, and they never talked after,
right.
right? A lot of grief there, a
Mm,
lot of sadness there. But
mm.
is there anything else you want to mention before we wrap up for today's live about this subject?
I think that's everything, other than there is a place for solicitors, for lawyers, sure, but the starting point should be have a meeting with a mediator, an accredited mediator, find out about all the different processes, because we have to talk about them. We're not allowed
Mm-hmm.
not to.
Mm-hmm.
And take a minute and decide what feels right for you.
Yeah. And I really like what, take a pause.
Mm,
It's like in the workbook, we have a page, like sit still, just sit still for a minute before you start, like, just making all these really quick decisions. And it's generally the one, as you said, what I really liked is the one that usually it's the one that's ready to go, like the
mm,
left one, like they're the ones that chose to leave. As you said, they're ready to go. Come on, let's get going.
mm.
And then the other one has to catch up, and there's a lot of the grief is different, right? And the emotions are different. So it's best to sit still and figure things out, talk to the mediator, get your, you know who you're divorcing, right? Like, right, see what you can do from there, and then talk to the mediators. North America, UK, Australia, it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah,
it'd be good to just have a consultation with the mediator to see, because it will save you a lot of heartache and money,
absolutely.
right?
Just do a little bit of research and take a minute and then decide, because it's probably one, if not the most important thing you'll do. It
Right.
will be one of the most life-changing things you'll do. So it warrants a bit more time than
Yeah.
people get sometimes. Yeah.
Well, it was great having you on. So how do people get in touch with you if they want your services?
So I am on Instagram, so Arc Family Mediation, and you can also look me up on the internet. So Arc Mediation is my own private practice, and you can find me there.
All right. Well, perfect. If you have any questions, just let us know, and you can DM us, one of us at Arc Mediation or Divorce Workshop, and we will answer those questions. I'd love to have you back on another time, because we had some other things. I'm like, oh, we could talk about that. So it was great. I love learning from you, and we'll see you soon.
Thank
Thank you.
you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Bye
Bye.
bye.